Welcome to another installment of Donning the Armor. This morning we will begin in 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 8. Now it happened one day that Elisha went to Shunem, where there was a notable woman, and she persuaded him to eat some food. So, first 7 verses, we're going through the widow of the sons of the prophet, talking about blessings being poured out as she's trying to avoid her sons being taken into bond servitude by a creditor. And once again, we're seeing this very Christ-like attitude from Elisha. He's traveling from place to place. People are approaching him. He's performing miracles. We'll see him later where the sons of the prophets are sitting at his feet to learn, much as we see the disciples doing with Christ. In this way, although I don't really like comparing too many people to Jesus, this way Elisha comes off very much as a shadow of what Christ would come to do when he came centuries later. That Elisha is going through ministering to the people where they are and how they need him. Elisha, great giant miracles, great giant things happening. Elisha just quietly goes about the work of ministering to the people personally. Oftentimes we'd see this with Christ where he'd tell people, now don't tell anybody who did this. Mainly because he was avoiding confrontations with the Pharisees because he knew when his time was to come. But also just so he can continue his journey, continue going through ministering to people quietly, ministering to people so that he could do things in a way that was profitable to each person he came across. And as his notoriety rose, it became more difficult for Christ to do the things he was meant to do. Not that he couldn't do them, obviously, or he didn't do them, but it became more difficult because there were more people crushed against him. There were more people waiting to be healed and not getting healed. Ministering to each person as he could, but there being too many people to minister to all of them because of the human limitation of time. But here we see Elisha going to Shunem. There's a notable woman. There's a great woman, a woman of wealth. We'll see that she's this, her husband has fields, so they are wealthy farmers, basically. And she pulls him aside and persuades him to eat. So it was, as often as he passed by, he would turn in to eat some food. So this is a route he would normally take. And her noticing that this is a way that he goes, continues to offer him food, offers to care for him, offers him provision, helps him, cares for him during his ministry and during his travels. And she said to her husband, "Look now, I know that this is a holy man of God who passes by us regularly. Please let us take a small upper room on the wall, and let us put a bed for him there, and a table and a chair and a lampstand. So it will be whenever he comes to us, he can turn in there." She said, let's build an addition onto our house, basically. Let us make a small upper room on the wall. Basically, it seems as though they're making an addition up on the roofs of the houses there would normally be flat, and they'd sometimes go up there as well to spend time and to rest and to entertain. Well, it seems as though she's saying, let us make a room for him up on this upper area, possibly with its own entryway, so that he knows this is his room. Whenever he passes by, he can go up there if he needs to rest. will have this area for him. This is how dedicated we are to doing this, to caring for this man of God, this man who blesses everyone. Because right now he's not specifically blessed them outside of with his presence. And they don't even ask anything from him. They don't specifically ask anything from him. At no point have they gone out and asked. But being people who believe in God and believing that God has been their provision, and he is the one who has provided for all the things that they have, they want to provide for the man of God as God has provided for them. And we see some of this in other portions of Scripture, like Matthew 41. He who receives a prophet in the name, or a prophet in the name of a prophet, shall receive a prophet's reward. And he who receives a righteous man in the name of a righteous man shall receive a righteous man's reward. They're receiving this prophet, and they have the provision of God. Hebrews 13:2. Do not forget to entertain strangers, for by doing so, some have unwittingly entertained angels. Be kindly affectionate to one another with brotherly love and honor, giving preference to one another, not lagging in diligence, fervent in spirit, serving the Lord, rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation, continuing steadfastly in prayer, distributing to the needs of the saints, given to hospitality. We saw this with Abraham, unwittingly entertaining angels. He sees people coming. Now he does eventually refer to him as Lord, as though he understands finally what this person is, that this person is the angel of God, the angel of the Lord. But we're told to be hospitable, because we never know who we're entertaining. We could be entertaining angels amongst us, and we don't look for anything from them, but just the fact that we've entertained them is blessing enough. And that seems to be the way that this woman is looking at it. She's blessing the saint, the man of God among her, by providing for him as he ministers to the people around them, performing miracles, but bringing and standing firm on the word of God, doing what is best for the people in the nation, an apostate nation, as it were, this idolatrous northern kingdom. Remember, Elisha's not in the southern kingdom of Judah with the good kings. No, he's in the northern kingdom of Israel with the sons of Ahab and Jezebel. Idolatry still permeates the land. Now, as we see the difference from pre-Mount Carmel to post-Mount Carmel, we see the difference in the attitudes of the people and how they have turned to God. But it's still not a land completely devoted to Yahweh. But still, learning the lessons from the Word of God, to entertain those, to be hospitable, not just at a cultural level, which Middle Eastern culture is very, very welcoming. Being welcoming to the stranger is something, hospitality is something that they take very seriously. Obviously, more so than we do in the West, where in the United States, we don't even know our neighbors' names in cities, let alone would be willing to entertain a stranger. Because we live in a different world. We live in a different cultural milieu. We live in a different cultural norms. We live in a culture where, although violence is very prevalent in the Middle East, hospitality is very, very welcomed. where violence in our nation could be relatively uncommon, although we do have a violence issue. We live in a very low trust nation, low trust cities, low trust societies. We don't trust people because you can never be sure of the person that you're welcoming in. So we have to be a little bit more discerning. But we shouldn't be so discerning that we are unwelcoming to the point that we're being ungodly. That is a level of discernment that we need to take in and factor into account, that we are not being inhospitable in our discernment of our hospitality, so to speak. So they build Elisha this extra room so that way he can come, he can rest. And it happened one day that he came there and he turned into the upper room and lay down there. Then he said to Gehazi, his Elisha, although we'll say there's a very big difference between Gehazi and Elisha. Gehazi would end up being essentially his Judas. Now, he doesn't turn him over, but he does turn against him and does seek after wealth and money over the word of God and over staying loyal to the man of God. That's what we'll see Gehazi do at the end of the next chapter. And he said to Gehazi, his servant, "Call the Shunammite woman." When he had called her, she stood before him. And he said to him, "Say now to her, look, you have been concerned for us with all this care. What can I do for you? Do you want me to speak on your behalf to the king or to the commander of the army?" So knowing that she's wealthy, he's saying, do you want me to speak to somebody even higher up than you? Do you want me to put up a good word for you with somebody that's even higher up? That way you could be more recognized and more famed than you are. He is telling this to Gehazi. Gehazi is telling it to her. What do you wish? What can I do? What can I do on your behalf? She answered, I dwell among my own people. Saying, I dwell here. I don't need to be in the courts of the king. I don't need to be elevated to any position higher than the one I already hold. I dwell among my own people. I'm content in what I have. So he said, what then is it to be done for her? And Gehazi answered, actually, she has no son, and her husband is old. So Gehazi actually answers on her behalf. Says, well, I don't know what we can do, but she has no children. Her husband's old. So she has nothing. She has no progeny to take over after her son passes. Her husband is old. She's younger. At some point, he's going to pass off. Then she's going to be on her own. So he said, call her. And when he had called her, she stood in the doorway. Then he said, about this time next year, you shall embrace a son. And she said, no, my lord, man of God, do not lie to your maidservant. So he says, you know what? Next time this year, you shall embrace a son. And she said, no, my lord. Don't lie to your maidservant. Don't lie to me. In essence, this is what? 2 Kings 4:14. As it's translated in some other versions, this is a little bit more of Is it 14 or 15? 15 maybe. But it has more of the connotation to not get her hopes up. Not so much that he's lying to her. Sorry. I'm trying to see if a different translation had it written a little bit differently. But it's not so much that he's lying to her, that she's accusing him of lying, but that she doesn't want him to get her hopes up. She's lived this long without a son, and of course, being in those cultures, being without a son was seen as though God was condemning you, that this was a condemnation upon you. And being told that, hey, this is going to end, was something that she couldn't bear to hope for and then not see come true. It was more than, that heartbreak would be more than she could handle. We read through Samuel, so we saw the heartbreak of Hannah before she had Samuel. How broken she was, to the point that Eli, the high priest, believed she was drunk when she came to pray for a child. She thought she was out of her mind with drunkenness. We've seen women. We see Mary was young, but you see Elizabeth, a woman who had lived all this time, being barren. We see these women with barrenness and how much of a toll it takes on them because of the culture around them and how it saw it as a curse from God. So now he's saying, hey, by this time next year, you're going to embrace a son. And she doesn't even want to believe it. We saw Sarah laugh at even the idea of her having a child. But this woman is so heartbroken about not having one that she dares not even contemplate the idea that she might. She dare not hope, because she doesn't want to be let down. But, as we're told in verse 17, the woman conceived and bore a son, and when the appointed time had come, of which Elisha had told her. So, exactly that time next year, as Elisha had prophesied to her, she has a son. Now it's going to be some time later. Elisha's goes from place to place, does his circuit. This woman has this child, and now as the child grew, now the child's not an adult, but he's probably 4, 5, 6 years old. Now it happened one day that he went out to his father, to the reapers, and he said to his father, my head, my head. So we don't know exactly why he's crying out, but he's now out. He went out to his father. He's out with the reapers. They're bringing in the harvest. And he starts to cry out, his head, his head. Now, some commentators have made it to be that it's possible that, it could be something as though he's having some kind of aneurysm. Or it could be that he's suffering from heat stroke. What exactly is it that he would run out to his father? Was he out with his father's this whole time? And in the hot sun, he now gets heat stroke. He starts to get faint. He starts to get lightheaded. He starts to hurt. And he begins to suffer. Because that is very well possible in that culture with a child of that age. So he said to a servant, carry him to his mother. When he had taken him and brought him to his mother, he sat on her knees until noon. And then he died. So we don't know what the head injury is. It doesn't seem as though he got hit in the head, although it is very well possible. Once again, we don't know why he cried out. But the father said to take him to the mother, which you would think if it was some kind of physical injury, the father would be taking care of it. But because it seems as though it's some kind of illness and they're in the middle of working, he's saying, since the child's taken ill, take him to his mother so he can be cared for. So the servant takes him, and he lies there, and he does not get better. He doesn't get any better from whatever this ailment is. And then he dies. She sits with him, lies with him, and then dies. And it is an awkward situation watching. I can't imagine actually watching your child die in your arm. Well, I can a little bit. Because my son, when he was 1, was taken to having breath-holding spells. We had never seen one before. Had never heard of one before. But always when he was a little bit younger, from the time he was 6 months old to a year, when he would get really upset, he would kind of what we would call buffering. He would kind of really stop, get himself red, and then scream. Well, what he was trying to do, and finally succeeded on Halloween night when he was 1 year old, so it was 2017, is he got so mad because I told him to stop pulling on something he was about to drop on his head, that he held his breath. Now, in a breath holding spell is a child will hold their breath until they pass out. And then when they pass out and they lose complete consciousness, they will go into a seizure. And when they're seizing, their breathing will auto kick back in because our breathing is automated. Unless we stop and think about it, we don't actually think when we breathe. Our body just does it. So when we pass out, our breathing just kicks in. And unless we're face down in something or having something cover our mouth, we'll just go back to breathing. Well, if you've never seen this happen before, a child turns blue. Their eyes roll up in the back of their head, and they go absolutely limp. Your child looks as though they are dying and suffocating in your arms. And you're trying to find an airway. You're trying to open something up. You're trying to find, did they swallow something? Are they choking? But there's nothing you can do. So as you're calling the ambulance, trying to figure out what's happening, realize the ambulance is never going to get there. And your child just goes completely blue and limp and stops moving for a good 30 seconds before they go into a seizure. You do feel as though you just held your child and watched them die. That panic is set in. That hopelessness is set in. So yeah, I guess I kind of do know what that's like. I remember when my daughter was born, the umbilical cord was around her neck a little bit. So I do remember what that was like, watching her come out blue and slightly premature. So I do remember what that's like. But my children are both alive. So I can't imagine what it would be like to actually hold my child on my knees until they actually died. But this is what this woman did. But then her faith kicks in. And she doesn't just let her child die. And she went up and laid him on the bed of the man of God, shut the door upon him, and went out. So she takes him back, takes him up to Elisha's room, the room that's only used by Elisha, puts him on the bed of Elisha, shuts the door, doesn't tell the father, and goes out. Because back then, you buried bodies because of the arid nature. If you remember the story of Lazarus, they tell him, you can't open up that tomb. It's going to stink. Because that's what happened. The body would start to decompose because of the arid nature. You would wrap a body and you would you would bury them quickly when somebody died. And she didn't want her husband burying this child. She had a task to do. And it was going to take time. So she goes out. Then she called to her husband and said, please send me one of the young men and one of the donkeys that I may run to the man of God and come back. So he said, why are you going to him today? It is neither the new moon nor the Sabbath. Like, there's work to be done. Why are you going there? This is no time for rest. There's no time. There's no reason why the man of God would be here to be entertained. We have work to do. And she said, it is well. Like, why are you going? It is well. Everything's well. Everything's fine. Then she saddled a donkey and said to her servant, drive and go forward and do not slacken the pace for me unless I tell you. She said, hurry, essentially. Hurry up. Don't slacken the pace. She tells her husband everything's well. Everything's great. You know, he's so busy, he might not realize that there's an issue. And he might not be correlating right away the fact that, hey, I just sent the child back sick. She's going to go get the man of God because she feels that she needs the man of God to help take care of her child. And even if he thinks that, there's no way he probably thinks that the child's dead. But she's not going to tell anybody anything. It's almost as if she refuses to accept the fact that the child's dead. It is well because she believes it will be well. Abraham's taking Isaac up on Mount Moriah. God will provide. God is testing him to kill his own son, but this is the son of promise. And it very much seems as though Abraham believes that even if he actually carries out this death of Isaac, that the Lord will give him back to him in some way. That this will still not be the end, that it will be well. It's like the story of "It is well with my soul," which is a pretty crazy story. I think I went through it once before, and we are getting a little long. So, but look up the story for "It is well with my soul" and the backstory with that, and the man who did it, and how that all came across. That's pretty incredible. But she tells the servant, don't slacken the pace. Continue to go. Go as fast as you can to Mount Carmel, which apparently from Shunem is a good day's ride. So to go there and come back, she may have left around noon and not come back until the next day or very late that night. Like, it was going to take a long time for this trip. I don't know that for sure, but that's what I've heard said. So if this is the case, she might not return till the next day. And as we know from the book of Ruth, oftentimes during the reaping time, the harvest time, Boaz would sleep out in the field with the wheat. So it's very well possible that the husband doesn't know that she's gone this long because he never returned home that night. So if it took till the next day, he didn't actually know she was gone the entire night. So she departed and went to the man of God at Mount Carmel. So it was when the man of God saw her afar off that he said to his servant Gehazi, "Look, the Shunammite woman. Please run now to meet her and say to her, is it well with you? Is it well with your husband? Is it well with your child, with the child?" And she answered, "It is well." So when Gehazi gets there, "Hey, is everything okay?" "It is well." Like, she is not telling Gehazi. She is not telling her husband. She is not telling anybody anything. It is well. Either because she wants to tell it directly to Elisha, or because she has complete and total faith in God that it will be well. But as we get later, I think it's that she wants to confront Elisha directly. Now, when she came to the man of God at the hill, she caught him by the feet, But Gehazi came near to push her away. But the man of God said, "Let her alone, for her soul is in deep distress, and the Lord has hidden it from me and has not told me." Elisha finds it a surprise that God hasn't told him something. So close is God and Elisha's relationship with him that it's a shock to him when he doesn't reveal something to him. That he is in such close relationship with God, hears from him so often, that he's shocked when he doesn't know something. Such is the walk he has with the Lord. See, we see in the New Testament Christ saying, well, only the Father knows. And in that case, it seems as though he's coming off very much as if he's not saying, I don't know the time, as much as he's saying, it's not my place to tell you the time. That it's only the Father's place to declare. In this, we're seeing that he honestly has no idea what's going on in this moment. That the Lord has hidden it from him. Maybe to keep him from going to her. Why? We don't know why God does what he does. But he does, we know he does it for our good. So she said, Did I ask for a son of my Lord? Did I not say, do not deceive me? So she says, did I ask you for this child? Did I not ask you not to deceive me? Not to get my hopes up. Not to play with my emotions. Then he said to Gehazi, get yourself ready and take my staff in your hand and be on your way. If you meet anyone, do not greet him. And if anyone greets you, do not answer him, but lay my staff on the face of the child. So now he knows something's up, and maybe now knows what is up. He tells Gehazi, do not stop to talk to a single person. Run fast. Get to that child and put my staff on the face of the child. And the mother of the child said, as the Lord lives, and as your soul lives, I will not leave you. So he arose and followed her. The very same thing he said to Elijah. I'm not leaving your side. No matter what anybody else is doing, I'm not leaving your side. Gehazi might be running, but I'm not leaving. Such heartbrokenness, though. Did I ask this child from you? No, I asked nothing from you. I asked you not to deceive me, not to get my hopes up, not to bring me in a place that I had already settled in my heart of never having a child. I had already settled on never having one. I had accepted that reality. But then you granted me a child. And now he is being taken from me, being removed from me, and I'm broken from it. There's always that old saying, it's better to have loved and lost than to never loved at all. But if you've lost, you understood, you've been in a position where you didn't have, and it hurts a lot more to lose. It hurts a lot more to lose. But there's blessings in the losing. There's blessings in the loss. There's blessings in knowing that there is no happiness without sadness. People sometimes say, if we're going to be reunited with God, if we're going to be reunited with the Lord eternally in heaven, why do we have to go through this life? The hardship of this life, the brokenheartedness of this life. If we're going to be all in joy forever in heaven, if this is this life simply a testing place? Partially yes, partially no. Because to live in a time where we are joyfully reconciled with the Father, we would have to know the opposite of joy. Or joy would have no meaning. It's the way some people keep saying, if everything is racist, nothing is racist. If everything is sexist, nothing is sexist. If everything is joy, nothing is joy. Because you have nothing to compare it to. When we get to heaven and we hear good, well done, good and faithful servant, we will know all the heartbreak of here is behind us. We'll have known what it was like to lose somebody. And we'll know what it is like to never lose another person again. We'll know that joy. We'll know what it was to have our heart broken. And we'll know what it is like to enjoy the joy of never having our heart broken again. We'll know the pain of hunger and then know the joy of never again hungering. We'll know the pain and loneliness of being broken and weary and reaching the end of our rope. And then we'll know the joy of never having to face that kind of situation again. She never knew what it was like to have a child. She had accepted that fate as much as it broke her heart. Now she faces loss. So she can understand what true joy is. See, she says, she answers as though this loss of a child is worse than the having one. But it's not. Like I said, I watched and wholeheartedly believed I watched my son die in our arms. I know that pain. I know it, even if it was momentary, I know what that pain brought. And that moment that happened years before I was a Christian, happened as an atheist. That pain, that horror, that speaks to and informs the joy I have every day I look at my son's face. To know that I once thought I lost him, and I get to enjoy every moment since with him still. This woman, in her grief, is thinking that it would have been better to have never had a son than to have lost one. But it's always better to experience than not experience when it comes to things that are joyful blessings of the Lord. And she has had a blessing for the last 4 or 5 years. And now she feels that blessing gone. But nothing could replace the experience of having it. Because let's be honest, even if we don't lose our children to death, our children, the things we experienced with them are never coming back. My daughter is 11. I will never have that toddler back. I'm never going to have that 2 and 3-year-old daughter back. I'm not going to have her in my arms as I feed her a bottle, reading fairy tales to her while she eats. Those days are gone. They're never coming back. They're a memory. Going to Sesame Place as she was a toddler, those are memories. Those are gone. They're never coming back. They're in the past. And as sad as it is for them to be past, the memory of them lingers and blesses in absolute abundance. So even if her child was to die here, the memory of him would be a blessing. It's actually what Jewish people say to this day when someone dies. I pray that, what is it they say? Let his life and memory be a blessing to you, or the memory of his life be a blessing to you. That all these times that are past are still blessing us to this day because of our experience of them. The experience itself oftentimes is just worth it because of who it makes us into. I don't wish the loss of a child on anybody. But I do know of those who have experienced it. I've seen people who have allowed it to break them. And I've seen people who have allowed it to cause them to grow stronger. And the people who I've seen break are typically people who don't have God, who don't have Christ. And the people I've seen strengthen are the ones that throw themselves at the feet of God and give themselves over to Him. This woman is falling on her face at the feet of the man of God. She might be crying out condemnations of, I didn't ask for this and now I lost it. But she fell at the feet of the man of God. And that man of God is about to do something pretty amazing for her. But we'll get to that next time. So that's where we're going to end it for today. I hope this was fruitful for you. I hope to see you back again next time. But until then, be blessed.